Hi, I'm Connor Botts of Tricky Fast Studios. In this series, we're going to be taking a look at how to make a game very similar to Flappy Bird using Cat Game Builder. In this video, we're going to finish our obstacle spawner and therefore the game. Let's move on to the set obstacle state. In this state, we want to make sure that our idle obstacles list is not empty, since we're just going to be pulling the first idle obstacle from it. To do that, we're going to use a conditional action. Add a GameObjectListValueLength condition. In the GameObjectListValueLength condition, set the target to owner, with the reference name being idle obstacles. Set the comparison type to greater than, and that's it. Any actions that run underneath this conditional action means that the list has at least one game object in it, which means that there's at least one game object to pull from it to send towards the penguin. To do that, we're going to add an action list. Leave it on serial, and then add 3 actions underneath this action list. A getGameObjectAtIndex action, remove GameObject from list action, and a changeState action. First, for the getGameObjectAtIndex action, set the index to 0, set the value list to owner, idle obstacles, and we're going to store this value in our next obstacles value. And then we want to make sure we remove that game object from the idle obstacles list. To do that, set the value to our next obstacle, and set the value list to idle obstacles. This will remove that game object from the list. And finally, we want to change our state to our initialized obstacle state. Also, just in case there aren't any game objects in the list, we should add an else action here that changes the state to delay. The reason we want to do this is because if there aren't any game objects in the list, then instead of just freezing here forever, the state will change to delay, which will then wait for the delay period that we set, and then it'll restart this state and check again. And that's it for our set next obstacle state. Next, let's do the initialize obstacle state. We're going to start this state with a serial action list. So in this state, we're going to be moving around the obstacles and the pipes within the obstacles a bit to add a little bit of variety to our game, and then we're going to start moving those obstacles. To do that, we need to get a random offset for the top and bottom pipes in our obstacle. Let's start by adding a setRandomVector3 action. We're going to store this value in owner and then top pipe offset. And then for the min and max values, we only have to worry about the y-axis for this, since we're just moving them up and down. So set the minimum y to 14 and the maximum to 15.5. Next, to get the bottom pipe offset, we're going to add a modify vector3 action. To get our bottom pipe offset, we're just going to multiply our top pipe offset by -1. Now that we have the values that we want to set our offsets to, we have to actually move the pipes. To do that, we're going to use a set target action. Leave the run type on serial, and set the new target to owner with the option of a reference name of our next obstacle. This will make it so that all our targeted actions affect our next obstacle game object, which is the obstacle that we pulled from our obstacle pool in the set next obstacle state. And then, underneath this action list, we're going to add 4 actions, 3 move actions, and 1 change state action. Under the first move action, we're going to move our top pipe. So set the target to targeted with a path of top pipe, just like it says in the hierarchy. Set the destination to none, but we're going to add an offset under options use offset. And then instead of a hard value, set the type to owner, and then our top pipe offset. Make sure the duration is 0 and that only Y is checked. And then in the next move action, we're going to do the same thing more or less for our bottom pipe. And finally, for our last move action, we're going to move the obstacle itself up or down a few units, just to add a little variety so the player has to go fly both up and down to go through the pipes. To do this, we're going to set the target to targeted, set the destination to owner, using an offset of 2.5 on the Y, and clicking randomize. Setting the offset on the Y to be 2.5 and checking randomize offset will move our obstacle randomly with a max of 2.5 and a minimum of negative 2.5 up or down. Lastly, make sure the duration is set to 0 and uncheck Z. We're going to leave X checked in this case, just in case that the obstacle spawned in the wrong position, and that way it'll move it to its proper place. And finally, for our change state action, set the target to targeted, so it targets our obstacle, and we want to set their state to move, so it starts moving across the screen. And that, we've finished initializing the obstacle. The only thing left to do in this state is to change the state to our delay state. To do that, add a change state action underneath our action list. Leave the target on owner and change the state to delay. Let's wrap up our obstacle spawner with the delay state. Under the delay state, we're going to start with a serial action list. And under that action list, we're going to add a delayed action, and then a change state action. Under the delayed action, we're going to set the duration from value to owner and the reference name to obstacle delay. We also want to make sure we set our obstacle delay. So let's set it to 1.25. Then finally, under the change state action, we're going to change the state to set next obstacle. And that will complete our game loop. So under set next obstacles, if there is an idle object in the idle objects list, we'll move on to initialize obstacles and initialize that obstacle and then change the state to delay. And then once the delay is over, it'll change the state back to set next obstacles. But also, if then under set next obstacles, if there isn't anything in the list, it'll just change the state to delay That way, it'll keep checking the list, and finally, when something does pop up in the list again, it'll send that object at the player as well. And with that, we've completed our obstacle spawner. Finally, before we test our game, let's check a few things. First, check that your obstacle spawner is tagged to obstacle. We want this to be tagged to obstacle because when the bird gets to the game over state, it will stop all state machines that are tagged as obstacle. And we want to stop this state machine when we get to the game over state to make sure the obstacle spawner doesn't keep spawning obstacles. Then also make sure that your obstacle spawner has an initial state of initialized pool. And then go into your prefabs and go into your My Obstacle prefab and also make sure that has an initial state set of disable. And with that, you should have a completed Flappy Bird clone ready for testing. Let's try it out. Your Flappy Bird clone should now be complete. In this video, we went over working more with lists, randomly generating and modifying values, and movement-related actions. I hope you found this tutorial series informative and useful. For more information on Cat and how it can help you prototype and build games faster, please visit trickyfast.com/cat. For more Cat video tutorials and tips, subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Twitter. Again, my name is Connor Botts with Tricky Fast Studios, and thanks for watching.